fellow critics, welcome back to the alley. The show's still trying to paint by numbers. Look, dog, life can be hard, even for kids, but especially for kids in a school full of murder, monsters, and negligent teachers. And in Kindergarten series, you have all three. 1, 2, 3. If you aren't familiar, Kindergarten is a game series on PC. A game about higher learning. Very high if you're Miss Applegate. It's a trilogy of puzzles and collecting and monsters and child murder. Game 3 just came out and a 4th was teased at the end. So the trilogy will become a saga. And I theorized there will be 5 by the end of it all. Game 1 was on Monday, Game 2 was on Tuesday, Game 3 was on Wednesday, so it stands to reason that we're gonna have to make it through a whole week of this insanity. As we toddle our way through the series, we make friends and enemies alike, solving puzzles and trying to help those friends survive. We even save a real-life Kevin, and those are important, but you don't gotta take my word for it.
Hi, I'm Kevin. That's right. A real live Kevin. Kind you hear about on the news or see on TV. Well, I'm here to tell you something. Kevins are awesome. Limited edition even. Look for my face on a holofoil card. You don't just see us popping up on the side of the road. And if you did, you can totally trust us. In fact, you should pull over so that we can help you. Trust me, you won't regret it. You should go out and get yourself a Kevin today.
At first, a lot of it seems like random acts of violence, but once you look a little deeper, you find much more than Monstermon cards and plushes. Hold on to your juice box because this mystery goes much deeper than your average sandbox. All the way down to the Nugget Cave. I have several theories and predictions for these murderous little scamps and the adults involved. Just be careful you don't end up on the wrong side of the mop. We begin these misadventures in a small school, like many of our academic journeys. We realize that some kids have it harder than others, and this batch is no exception. It's no surprise that some of these kids don't bat an eye at the ensuing chaos. I don't think this was an accident. I think these kids were chosen by design. From the very beginning, every teacher that we encounter is suspect, and rightly so. Miss Applegate is our teacher, and she's overly endowed with credentials. And our janitor has the sort of dark past that makes Jeffrey Dahmer nervous. And we learn that our principal even is involved in the kidnapping and experimentation on random children. Or are they random? Even his own son isn't immune to the madness. It's up to those meddling kids to bring down the monsters, both literal and figurative. Only this time, it's more than masked curmudgeons. We learn about a very special substance with a lot of applications. And it comes in many fun forms. They make pills from it and give it to some of the children as an effect that it has upon some of them is amnesia. Hard to complain if you can't quite remember. We first see that amnesia effect in our dear odd friend Nugget. He's given these pills to forget what happens to poor Billy. Following these twisted tales, we take down the principal, stop his charade, and realize sadly that he was just one in a series of shadows. Several students were transferred from the first and the second school, most notably our player student. There they experience a myriad of fun, dramatic events. The second school is also performing experiments with the aforementioned substance. Again, we find kindergartens being transformed into monsters. And you know, some are monsters already, but like we mentioned in the Lilo and Stitch episode, even monsters deserve love. It's the same monsters that killed the previous principal, and you too if you get too close. This time we find a large amount of the substance in the form of goo. And you know, kids love goo, right? But it's too much goo! So much goo that when you find the secret basement lab, there's basically a swimming pool full of it. But you wouldn't want to swim in this pool of jello, because it'll turn you from this to this. But it doesn't seem like chewing food would be a thing anymore. So, little victories? You pinch the gaping maw shut with a robotic claw, and our dear friend Nugget takes the beast out from above with a jackhammer. Yeah, I told you these games get wacky. As we get shipped off to our third school in a week, we start to notice something. Well, several things, but one thing in particular about our little Rugrat protagonist. Not only can he still not read, but the stress of this is really starting to get to him. And quite frankly, I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier. As we guide them through the literal hell that is adolescence, especially here, we start noticing things about them. Like, they begin to have conversations with themselves. And not your normal conversation either. They begin to have discussions with themselves about the things that they experience that call some further examination into question. The best example I found of this was on the roof. There's a missile defense system. No, you heard me right. A missile defense system. In this day and age, I almost feel like these should be a necessity. Just not easily accessible by every questionable toddler and murderous janitor. Anyway, our protagonist questions the existence of and need for such a device. Us, as what was previously thought to be a simple narrator, replies, well, why wouldn't they? The protagonist child says, no, my question was better, which is true, and you essentially respond with an I don't know. This exchange got me thinking. I'm pretty sure our little anti-hero is experiencing dissociative identity disorder, or DID. This disorder is characterized by 2 or more distinct personality states, very much like Fight Club or Mr. Brooks. When faced with an overwhelming amount of stress and trauma, our mind generally apts to choose one of 2 methods: snap or split, to put it briefly. It can be much more complex than that, but to save you the struggle and tiresome psychological babble, because it's not everyone's major like mine, we'll just simplify it for now. When we go through an event big enough, or a series of unrelenting stress, our brains will sometimes choose to split the difference, creating another person to help us cope with the trauma. Some of us are aware of it, like the Mr. Brooks example from earlier. Some of us, unfortunately, go the Tyler Durden route that Fight Club expresses. The latter is much more dangerous, especially when large amounts of time go inexplicably missing to our primary consciousness. Something very dangerous could be happening and we would have no idea. These symptoms include a sense of being separated from yourself or your emotions, the idea that people around you or events are distorted or not real, and a blurred sense of identity. If any of these symptoms sound too familiar, you may want to confirm with a professional. This is not always a detrimental diagnosis, though. Many people live a very happy and fulfilled life with these symptoms, so don't be scared or ashamed of it. We all go through a lot and deserve to believe in ourselves and our ability to recover. The disorder is estimated to affect 1 to 1.5 effect of the population that has been diagnosed. Our young friend does not seem too disturbed by it, although it is troublesome how he looks death and the possibility of being maimed or extremely harmed in the face without even flinching. He is so used to these tragedies, at his kindergarten no less. I would like to imagine that even I would be startled to be at the bloody end of a mop, or to watch my classmates turn into bloodthirsty monsters, just to name a couple of examples of the things they go through. And the week's not even over yet. As I said earlier, number 4 is slated to come out, and there is the dark mention of someone only known as she, who probably is responsible for a lot of this ensuing madness. We also learn that all the nearby schools are connected by this conveniently placed underground series of tunnels. So for a few predictions, I am going to propose that we will likely find out that the Applesoft Corporation and the family that runs it are likely behind a big part of this whole mess. We already see them having access to a chemical that turns out to be a cure of it, which we use to cure our dear friend Nugget in number 3, and all of his animal friends as well. We are clearly on the path to the academy that's mentioned because we seem to be smarter than the average bear. Also, I'm willing to wager that our dear friend Nugget is going to help us gain access to that series of tunnels that I mentioned earlier. I mean, he already gets us into a couple underground labs, as well as finally getting the answers to where Billy and Bugs went to during the events of Kindergarten 3. Those two have proven their ability to survive more than a few bumps and scrapes and bruises. Keep studying, watch out for suspicious goo, and make sure you keep a few nuggets of friendship handy. Critically yours, The Fox. Nom 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 nom.